Okay, so today we're going to start taking our fictional characters, conflicts, outlines, and turning them into the beginning of a rough draft. So you need to have your fiction outline handy, so open that up from last class, and also have some paper nearby. So as we read House Taken Over, that fictional story about the brother and the sister in the house where they take over, we used visualization as a reading strategy to help us comprehend, right? So we thought about specific details that were included in the words, and then we drew pictures based on what we imagined. But now we're going to kind of do the reverse of that. So we're going to visualize first what we picture for our own stories, and then we're going to draw it and use those drawings to help us create our written work. So the first thing that I want you to do is take some time to reread your outline that you developed last class. So I went back and I looked at mine, and it said something, it was like, Father Joseph wanted to be the world's leader in like miracle confirmation. But the incident or event that he's supposed to investigate turns out to be evil. So he tries to convince himself that it's not evil, and then tries to hide that it is evil from other people. Then in the end, it kills him and continues to plague this community of people. So that's my basic outline for my story. And I haven't written anything beyond that other than like a little bit of stuff about my character and who I think Father Joseph is. So reread that, and then, so that's for yours, right? You're rereading your own outline. Then I want you to focus on one important event that is going to happen in your story. And I want you to visualize and create that event in your mind, like a movie. So think about these things. Where is it happening? So is it in a room? If it's in a room, what kind of room? What kind of objects are there? What's the lighting like? Things like that. If it's outside, are they in a park? Are they in a city? Are there lots of cars around? What's that setting like? Where are they? What time is it? Things like that. Also think about who is there. So maybe your main character is there by him or herself, and there's no one else around. Maybe they're in a huge crowd of strangers. Think about who else is there. Then think about what the people in that scene are doing. So think about their physical actions. Are there tears? Is there laughter? Is there movement? Are they doing something with the objects in that area? So think about the movement and the action. Also think about what those people in that scene are feeling. So you can't necessarily see sadness, but you kind of can, right? Because of facial expressions and body posture and things like that. So based on how your characters are feeling about what's happening in that scene, how is their face going to change? How is their body language going to change? And then also think about what are they saying to each other or to themselves? And how do those words come out? Are they shouted? Are they whispered? Are they said with sarcasm? And just kind of try to picture all of that in your head like it was a movie or like it was something that was happening where you are. So you could be like this lady here in this image and, meditate. Or I went out and just took a walk around the school to think about my scene because I needed to get away from my computer and not have any distractions while I thought about it. So take 5 minutes just to try to picture that. Then I want you to draw. And remember that your artwork does not have to be amazing. What you're trying to do is capture on paper some of the things that you imagine in your mind. So include images that show where the scene happens, who's there, what they're doing, saying, and feeling, all those things that I asked you to think about. And consider adding some color maybe, because those are things that might help you out as you're writing. So I want to show you my example. So again, clearly your artwork does not have to be great. So what I took time to visualize was the part where my character tries to convince himself that this thing that's happening is not evil. And so when I was thinking about what that might look like, I pictured this image that I was basing my character off of, which was that nun floating above the two priests. And I thought I would start there because it gave me something to start with. And I thought about him maybe seeing something that the other priests didn't. So I kind of started with that same scene with the two priests down at the bottom on the ground in the cathedral and the nun up in the air. And then I thought about something happening to her or her doing something that would show maybe this is not a miracle. Maybe this is not a good thing that's happening. And I tried to think about, well, what would that be? And I thought about a red eye. And I think that's because I've seen that in a ton of movies where, the eyes turn red when they're bad. So it may be kind of overdone, but that's where I'm going. So you can't really quite tell, but I made her eye red and it's kind of out to the side there. So then I drew the priest. And so I was drawing him and decided that he should be looking at her. And I was trying to do colors. And I didn't have any brown. And it actually kind of worked out because I decided as I was doing it that I was going to make him older. So I used pencil to make his hair gray. And I gave him kind of a bald spot. Because I thought if it might be more interesting if he, in addition to having this desire to be the world's expert, that he's also older. And so he's running out of time to reach his goal, which adds another layer of conflict and why he might conceal what's really going on. So then I thought, well, why is he going to freak out so much about this red eye? And I thought, well, maybe he's the only one that sees it. So I had the other priest turning around and he has this content face on his, or is this content look on his face because he's oh yeah, we have this amazing thing happening and we're going to become famous for like having this miracle at our church, but little does he know what's happening behind him. So then I drew kind of this, the stuff that I remembered from the picture. So like the floor and the pillar. And then I thought this was like too plain. So I drew this cross up here that's like behind the pillar. And I drew this stained glass window. And as I was drawing that, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if my guy, he was like questioning if he really saw what he saw, with this red eye that she like opened her eyes and it was red. And I was thinking that maybe he could be uncertain about that because of a stained glass window with light coming through. Because I know, like in my own life, you know, when I drive into work, the sun is coming through my windshield and it makes it hard to see, and I have to like squint, and everything just gets very unclear, right? So I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to do, is have the sun coming through that stained glass window, shining over her and kind of coming toward him, which might make him think, well, oh, I didn't see what I actually saw. And then the last thing I drew were the pews down here, just to put something else in the scene. Okay, so take some time and draw. And, you know, as you're creating your drawing, you may think about some different things for your story that you didn't even think about as you were visualizing it. So feel free to add or change things. We're still in the brainstorming and drafting phase, so feel free to change as much as you want. Okay, and then the last thing for today is for you to start turning your drawing into writing. So as you do this, there are some things to consider. One thing you might do is start with that sentence that you were using from your fiction outline, and use that as like a place to start. Another thing that you could do is add some sentences that describe where things are in the story. So like color, placement of objects, smells, sounds. So basically describing the drawing that you created. And include some descriptions of the characters' movements and their facial expressions as you talk or as you write about what's happening in your story. And then in your document, I also have some general drafting rules. So when you're drafting, your goal is to get all your ideas out. You're not trying to create something perfect or even good necessarily. Like, you have permission for this to be really bad writing. Okay, give yourself that permission. So with that in mind, don't delete anything. So you may not like something that you wrote in that moment. You might say, oh, that's a stupid way to describe him, or I don't think I want to go that direction with my story. But don't delete it. Instead, cut it, right, from your document and paste it at the bottom of the document. That way you still have those sentences or those words that you thought of. And you can use them later if you change your mind. But if you delete it, then it's just gone, right? So that's rule 1. Do not delete anything. Rule number 2, do not worry about spelling and grammar. I know that some of us get really distracted by like the little squiggly lines and stuff. But we can do things with spelling and grammar during editing. Right now, your goal is to get your ideas down as quickly as possible. And worrying about spelling and grammar is going to get in the way of getting your ideas written. So if you have to like put a piece of paper over your screen while you type, you can do that. That's fine. Do whatever it takes to not focus on the spelling and grammar. And then rule number 3 for creating your draft is do not try to be perfect. Give yourself permission to be really bad, okay? And keep in mind, we're gonna go through the revision stage with this writing. And at that point, we can change words if you don't like the words you chose. We can reorganize your story and change the order that things go in. We can add lots of stuff, dialogue, description, whatever. So just kind of get that basic draft written. Okay. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to write while you are here to show you kind of like how I'm going to go about this. So I'm actually going to take my picture and put it in here. This is a reference. Okay, so I'm going to start with my sentence from my summary, which was Father Joseph tried to convince himself that what he'd seen was not evil. So that's just helping me kind of get started. And then I'm going to maybe describe what he saw. So I'm starting like in the middle of my story, which is also something that's perfectly acceptable to do. You don't have to start at the beginning when you're writing. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call this guy Father Rodrigo. I just made that up. I don't think that's how you spell that. Oh, and I'm breaking one of my rules. Okay, Father Rodrigo turned to go to the, I don't know, front of the church. Father Joseph lingered, staring at Sister, what's her name going to be? Let's call her Maria for now. I can change that later. Staring at Sister Maria floating 30 feet in the air above him. Okay, and then I'm going to describe like how he was feeling. He feeling stirred in his chest at the prospect of finally reaching his goal of confirming a miracle for the church. As he stared, I'm going to say as his eyes drifted over to the colorful stained glass window behind this miraculous woman. Sure. The sun moved, right? Because I have the sun over there. The sun moved, or no, clouds. Oh, I'm breaking another rule. Clouds parted on the other side, and the sun out to, the word for like shine. I'm going to say project brilliant rays of light through the class. And then I'm going to describe what I picture him doing. So Father Joseph, I'm going to say that he's shielded, or squinted and shielded his eyes with his palm, his open palm, still trying to look at the floating woman. And then I think I'm going to say, like, through his open, through slotted fingers and beams of light, he saw her face. His eyes landed on her face. She looked peaceful. Oh, serene. Fully even. As he was about to look away and join Father Rodrigo, Sister Maria's eye opened. Her pupil, he could only see her left eye, her brown pupils, irises? What was called the colored part of your eye? I don't know. I'll just say eyes. Her brown eyes seemed to stare forward without blinking. In a split second, her eye moved in an unnatural direction toward the back, to the side of her face, looking directly at Father Rodrigo, or no, Father Joseph. And shown I'm trying to think how I would react if that happened. So if I think I'm looking at something and it's like miraculous and beautiful and amazing, and then something really unexpected and kind of scary happens, maybe I'll say in that moment, he closed his fingers because he's like shielding his view. He panicked. He shielded. He enclosed his fingers to shield himself from the terrible view. When he shook off the feeling, because they knew this had to be a miracle, and his brain must have been playing tricks on him. you looked back at and saw that her eyes were once again closed. Okay, so, I've got a basic scene there. I don't have dialogue. I don't have a whole lot of description about like what he looks like, what she looks like, color, placement, anything like that. But doing this drawing helped me get started with telling that story. It gave me ideas that I didn't have before I started. And now that I have this, like, it's just a paragraph, so I didn't try to organize it really. But now that I have this, I have a starting place. So I could either write the scene that happens before this, right, where he's like arriving at the church and talking to this other guy and seeing everything for the first time, learning about what happened. Or I could write about what happens afterwards. So like, is something else going to happen that makes him go, wait a minute, what is happening? So it gives me a starting place. So what you're going to do now is you're going to write your scene, right, based on your drawing. And then once you do that, I want you to write one more scene from your story during asynchronous time. So you could, if you felt like the drawing was really helpful, you could go through that process again. But if now that you've kind of done that, you feel like you have a really clear picture in your mind, you can just write. Okay, so feel free to use this strategy if you found it helpful. But if you're like ready to just get your ideas down, go ahead and do that. And you're going to keep typing in that fiction draft document. And we'll turn that in a couple of class periods. All right, email me if you have questions while you work.